who's in the audience whom I can't see. I don't know how many of you are out there, but we're happy to have you join us. The purpose of tonight's forum is to describe the programs and services that Cuyahoga County Public Library provides to all of us in the county, and to identify the needs behind the upcoming library levy, which is issue 70 that we will be voting on probably within a week if we're doing mail-in ballots, and on November 3rd when we go to the polls. The public library, well, let me say one thing first. I would like to clarify, before Nancy Levin speaks later on in the program, I would like to clarify the difference between the Cuyahoga County Public Library system and the independent libraries. The Cuyahoga County Public Library has voters in 47 communities across Cuyahoga County, covering 23 school districts, and people in those communities are the ones that will be voting on the levy coming up. In other districts where they have an independent or school library, of which there are 8 independent libraries, and those voters do not vote on the public library, on the Cuyahoga County Public Library levy. They can use the Cuyahoga County libraries, but they will not be voting on the levy because the levy will not be applied to their property taxes. So examples of the independent libraries include Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights University Heights, Lakewood, Rocky River. That's just 4 or 5 of the independent libraries. Voters in areas with the independent libraries will not be affected by the levy, but they are still welcome to use the public library. The county public library covers all the other communities that don't have their own independent libraries. They cover a wide swath of the county, particularly in the outlying areas. And Nancy Levin, who will be speaking later in this forum, will be describing how we came up with the confusing library system that we have. Some of us use libraries and don't know whether they're part of the county system or whether they're independent libraries. So she educated me a lot, and she will be educational for you to hear also. So now I'd like to introduce Marcia Goldberg, who is our moderator for tonight. She's very experienced. She has been a steadfast League of Women Voters member for more than 30 years. She has been president of the League of Women Voters of Shaker Heights and co-president of the League of Greater Cleveland. She has moderated League candidate and issues forums, including one of last spring's forums on the Health and Human Services levy, and last fall's forum on the county charter amendments. Marcia lives in a community, Shaker Heights, that's unaffected by the levy, but she often uses the county library system and attends many of its author events. We are fortunate to have her as our moderator. And I just want to say, I don't think I introduced myself, did I?
No, Susan, you didn't.
Okay, so I'm just going to say, I'm Susan Taft. I'm a League member. I was nervous getting started, so I forgot to introduce myself. And I am the person who has organized the forum tonight and brought you these wonderful people who are going to talk more about the library system. So over to you, Marcia.
Thank you. And Susan does live in a community affected by this levy, should it pass. This forum, I want to tell everyone, is being recorded and will be posted on the League's YouTube channel. Very easy to find, just take a search. It'll also be posted on the League's website, which is lwvgreatercleveland.org. Today's forum is being held to inform citizens in the library district about the county library system, its programs and services, and to give the director of the library system, Tracy Strobel, an opportunity to explain why the library is asking for a 1 mil operating levy. While there is no organized opposition to the levy, the Greater Cleveland Partnership, which is the area's Chamber of Commerce, has publicly expressed its disappointment with the levy request, complaining that the tax burden on county residents is already heavy, that the levy should be for a limited number of years instead of a continuing levy, and that library services in the county should be restructured. Tracy Strobel, the executive director of the library system, will address these concerns, and I will now introduce her. Tracy was appointed executive director of the Cuyahoga County Public Library in July 2019 after Sari Feldman retired. Tracy's career in public libraries began at Medina County District Library in 1996. In 1999, she moved to the Cleveland Public Library until 2005. There she developed the nation's first 24/7 virtual reference service. She joined the county library in 2005 and as deputy director led its 27 branches and its information system. And technical services and literary and learning divisions. She has led the largest capital improvement program in the library's history, which I know we'll want to hear more about, which included the replacement of 10 branches and the renovation of 14 over a period of 7 years. From 2011 to 2013, Tracy served as the U.S. representative to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's International Network of Emerging Library Innovators. She served as a member of the Public Library Association Board of Directors from 2016 to 19 and the American Library Association's Information Technology Policy Advisory Committee from 2015 to 19. She currently serves as chair of the American Library Association's 2020 Census Library Outreach and Education Task Force, which is very important, and she holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Kent State and a master's of library science from the State University of New York at Albany. She was also a member of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2015. So Tracy, that introduction means you have no time to sleep, right? I can't even imagine. So please take it from here, and you can share your screen whenever you wish to.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marcia. I am going to share my screen now, so give me just a moment.
Book clubs and current events.
Sorry. Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so very much for that kind introduction. And thank you for this opportunity to share the Cuyahoga County Public Library story and why issue 70 is so critical to support library services in the county. I am incredibly proud to lead one of our nation's best and busiest public libraries. Library Journal, our largest professional trade publication, has named your library the highest rated large library system in the country for the last 10 years. Many people ask how we've achieved such an outstanding recognition year after year. I would rather show you than tell you. And this video tells our story better than I ever could. It explains both our tradition of excellence as well as our efforts to continue to serve in these unprecedented times. So I'll start this video and then we'll continue with our conversation afterward.
The library is a place for everybody. I couldn't imagine this community without the library down the street.
The South Euclid-Lyndhurst branch is very special to me.
Everything from book clubs and current events conversations to virtual bowling leagues.
It's easy, it's fun, it's inspiring.
No matter who you are, from old to young to whatever culture you are, the library has something for everyone.
The decision to close the library was incredibly difficult. We looked at how we could serve our customers through our virtual services and our digital collection. Having our internet accessible in our parking lots was an important part of what we offered. We saw kids out there doing homework. We saw people searching for jobs and applying for benefits in our parking lots. We phased our reopening. We began June 1st offering a curbside service in a couple locations and drive-up service. And then on July 6th, we reopened all 27 locations to the public. Of course, it looked different.
We have plenty of signage, make sure people knows to follow, social distancing, washing their hands, things like that. We follow directives given by the governor. I mean, these are tough times. One of the things that never stopped, online GED resources, again, that goes back to job readiness, preparedness, that never stopped.
People were eager to reconnect with us and maintain the library as a critical part of their lives.
We're here for you. We'll keep the Wi-Fi on for you.
Libraries remain our most critical social infrastructure. They provide more early literacy than any other public program. They provide English as a second language services, citizenship training for people who want to join this great nation. The library is one of the very few places that is really open and accessible and free for all of us.
As a mother of a 6-month-old, I try to do intentional parenting. Miss Emily, she is a wealth of information. She gives mind-blowing tips for when I'm at home with Zoe, things to develop her cognitive skills, things to just develop her as a human being.
With my son, he wasn't reading very well at all. Once he got into the 1, 2, 3 read program with Miss Elaine, it was something that was fun for him, and it also helped me to help him along with reading.
Finding a job is a job. And I think the library is perfect because it offered free workshops. The staff is very friendly and they're very good at what they do.
There's no judgment when you walk into a library. Teaching somebody a lesson, whether it's science with baking or math with cooking a steak, temperatures, times, the lessons are endless.
As an entrepreneur, the library, it meant a lot to me. There's certain things that I needed for myself, that's at my disposal for free. The library has it all.
This library has always looked for the next best way to serve our customers. They need the library still, they need it in a different way, and we have adapted and changed, just like we always have, to meet that need.
Not many places in the world have libraries like we do. In fact, the Cuyahoga County Public Library system is the envy of many parts of the country. It's really on us at this moment to invest in each other, and the best way to do that is to continue to support the library.
I'm a curious maker.
I'm a lifelong learner. I'm an aspiring entrepreneur.
I am a super parent.
Find yourself at Cuyahoga County Public Library.
Find yourself at Cuyahoga County Public Library.
Find yourself at Cuyahoga County Public Library. I did.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I want to share a few quick facts about CCPL before we get going. Cuyahoga County Public Library serves nearly 620,000 residents across 47 municipalities. As Susan shared with us, there are 8 additional independent library systems in communities across Cuyahoga County. Residents in these communities will not see issue 70 on their ballot. Only residents of the 47 communities CCPL serves will be asked to vote for issue 70. CCPL provides library services from 27 branches. You can see the map here. They span inner ring suburbs like Brooklyn and Warrensville Heights, all the way out to the farthest reaches of our county like Mayfield and Strongsville, even Bay Village. We also have a robust collection of digital resources, from ebooks and e-audiobooks to streaming music and movies, as well as digital magazines. These are available to library card holders on their own computers or devices from wherever they can connect to the internet. 2019, our public library system had more visitors than the Indians, Cavaliers, and Browns games combined. Our 5 million visitors borrowed 14.5 million items and used our computers more than 855,000 hours. 329,000 children and adults attended library programs to explore new interests, connect with their favorite authors, learn new skills, and engage with their neighbors. The Cuyahoga County Public Library is incredibly proud to offer a wide variety of programming for all ages and interests. Our programming embraces our mission to create an environment where reading, lifelong learning, and civic engagement thrive. For our youngest residents, the library supports family engagement to boost early literacy and language development. Parents are a child's first teacher, and the library helps parents be the best teacher they can be. Our innovative Baby Club program pairs child development specialists with librarians in a 5-week series especially targeted to low-income families who may not have access to these resources otherwise. Early childhood spaces in our branches include specially designed interactive displays and developmentally appropriate toys and games to stimulate a child's most important mode of learning, which is play. These spaces engage young children in the 5 key skills: reading, writing, talking, singing, and playing. And we partner with key organizations that share our goals to support families of young children. One example is in Maple Heights, where we partner with the Center's Family and Children to host a preschool right in the library. We also partner with the Literacy Cooperative and Ohio's First Lady, Fran DeWine, to ensure the success of the Governor's Imagination Library, which delivers books to children ages birth to 5 every month across Cuyahoga County. For students, we are their partner in academic success. By partnering with the 23 school districts in our service area, we serve 1st and 2nd grade students identified as most at risk of failing the 3rd grade reading guarantee. For these students, we offer our 1-2-3 Read program, which provides trained volunteer tutors who give one-on-one reading support to students identified by their schools and their teachers as at risk of failing that 3rd grade reading guarantee. More than 90% of our 1-2-3 Read students improve and advance their reading level. Our Homework Centers program, which was born out of the school strike crisis in Maple Heights from over a decade ago, delivers after-school homework help to students in our 10 lowest performing school districts. When schools closed this past March, we quickly ramped up live online homework help through a service called tutor.com to ensure that kids had access to help and resources. During the summer, the library offers hundreds of opportunities for fun, hands-on learning with our STEAM programming, such as robotics, coding, engineering, and so much more. All of our programs are free of charge and open to everyone. As we adapt to the realities of this school year, the library has worked to modify our programs to ensure we can continue to serve students whose school experience includes a combination of in-person and distance learning. Now, for adults, we are so much more than books on shelves. Last year, we hosted more than 100 traveling authors, from Senator Sherrod Brown and Connie Schultz, pictured here, to celebrity chef Michael Simon, best-selling authors Michael Conley and luminary Jericho Brown. As our branches closed, we pivoted our author events to online, virtual. We've received incredible engagement, actually from across the country. More than 900 attendees joined us online for an important conversation about racism a few weeks ago with authors Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi, who collaborated on the book Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism and You. Just this week, and it's only Wednesday, we've been virtually visited by authors Jodi Picoult, Sue Miller, and Durf Backdurf. A more recent endeavor has been culinary literacy at the library, led by our friend and culinary literacy ambassador, local celebrity chef, Rocco Whalen. Learning about cooking, healthy eating, and meeting best-selling celebrity chef authors has been a fun and informative way to celebrate wellness and embrace cultural diversity. And speaking of cultural diversity, the library is often the first place for immigrants in our community who are seeking a connection. Our English as a second language and Aspire citizenship classes have helped so many of our new neighbors feel welcome and begin their journey to make their American dream come true. These classes have transitioned to an online platform during the pandemic to ensure there's no gap in learning for our students. Adult learners seeking a degree, certificate, or just new skills use the library's Aspire Greater Cleveland services. These state-funded adult education programs teach adult basic literacy, prepare adults to pass the GED high school equivalency test. They teach language for non-English speakers, citizenship, and digital literacy. Our career coaches build job search and job readiness skills, and our tech trainers offer basic and intermediate instruction in the Microsoft Office suite. In partnership with Cuyahoga County, we stepped up to support their efforts to decentralize social services, making it more convenient for residents to apply for social benefits and maintain their eligibility. We trained our staff to become benefits navigators and prepared them to support our customers, many who lack internet access and even basic digital literacy skills, to navigate the complicated world of online benefits, which is critical in this time of the pandemic where so many were newly applying for unemployment benefits. We offer Aspire Greater Cleveland services across the county, including in the city of Cleveland, not just at libraries, but also at rec centers, the Virgil Brown County Service Building downtown, and even in the county jail. We were incredibly proud earlier in the year to graduate 14 students in the county jail with their high school equivalency diploma. These services are possible in no small part because of our outstanding facilities. Our 27 branches are convenient, efficient, and the pride of the cities in which they reside. Over the past decade, we've invested $110 million in the local Greater Cleveland economy with 24 branch replacement and renovation projects. These projects have allowed us to provide more services and programs to our residents while costing us less to staff and sustain. I hope you've learned a few things that you didn't know we did. And I hope some of them surprised you. And I hope it's clear why we are the country's best large library system. These services would not be possible without our smart, hardworking team of library employees, over 800 strong, working in our 27 locations and administrative headquarters. And of course, our story would not be the same without the very best library customers in the country. We are first in the nation with per capita circulation of library materials. Cuyahoga County residents are readers, learners, and know a good deal when they see one. But how are we funded? And why is issue 70 critical to protect our library? Our budget is comprised largely of revenue from local property taxes. Nearly 2/3 of our approximately $70 million budget comes through local support. Local property tax revenue represents 2/3 of the library's budget. I share all of this within the context of declining revenue base and the fact that Cuyahoga County Public Library has not been to the ballot since 2008. Prior to the pandemic, we cut expenditures by about $4 million annually, reducing our largest expenditure category, salaries and benefits, by 14.3% since 2009. In terms of FTE count, we've reduced by fully 10% in that time. The economic impact of the pandemic further compounds the library system's losses. We projected a $5 million shortfall this year in our funding from the state's public library fund. To compensate for this loss, We were forced to lay off and furlough 300 part-time staff and reduce working hours for all remaining staff by 50% for 9 weeks. Planned maintenance projects were deferred, and our materials budget was reduced by $750,000. Currently, the library has a 2.5 mil continuing tax that funds our operations. This is the lowest library tax rate of the 9 libraries in the county. Because of declining property values since 2008, we received nearly 14% less from local property taxes last year than we did in 2009, which was the first year of collections following our levy request in 2008. This graph really tells the story. But even with this decline in revenue, we have stayed off the ballot for the last 12 years, while enhancing services and significantly improving facilities. We re-examined everything we did, from staffing to procurement to logistics, and we managed to weather the declines while maintaining a 98% customer satisfaction rate. Did I mention that we have operated with the lowest millage of any public library system in the county? And when you look at our peers across the state, Cuyahoga County favorably leverages our public resources. After a great deal of analysis and careful consideration, the library's Board of Trustees has determined that without additional revenue, CCPL would be forced to reduce services, hours, and locations. For that reason, the board decided to ask voters in our 47 communities to support a 1 mil continuing levy for the purpose of operating expenses. What does that 1 mil represent? Well, for the library, it will provide approximately $18 million to our annual operating budget. For residents in the 47 communities we serve, it's an additional $2.91 per $100,000 in home value, or approximately $35 a year. The funding will permit us to remain on our path of continuous improvement. It will ensure we remain among the very best public libraries in the nation. Without this funding, we'll need to cut back services.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm gonna ask all of our participants, if you'd like to ask a question, go to the Q&A at the bottom of your screen and just type your question in there. Susan will look them over and forward them to me at the end of the rest of the discussion here. I'm gonna turn now to a couple of heavy users of the library system, the county library system. First, we'll meet Abby Vandiver, an author of Gentle Murder Mysteries, who lives in South Euclid. Are you there, Abby?
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, we can hear you fine.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I write as Abby Vandiver. I also write as Abby Collette. I want to thank the League and all the people here tonight for inviting me, because this is important to me. And I'm sure after that great presentation we just heard, you can see how it's important to so many people. About me, I've written about 25 books and lots of short stories. I'm a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author, and I live in South Euclid. And I'm very happy to be here to talk about the library, because I love the library. As you've heard, and probably you know, there are lots of things that you can do at the library, but I wanted to share with you the reason that I go to the library and what it has meant to me. I grew up going to the library, and the first place I visited when I moved to South Euclid, of course, was the library. And that's what I wanted to, South Euclid Library is what I want to talk to you today, this evening about. I get excited when I talk about the library, and I talk about it every place I go. I've been included in some of those author events that Tracy talked about, not just with local libraries, but libraries in California and Scottsdale, and I always talk about the Writing Center at the South Euclid Library. I got sick a few years ago, and I had to stop my career as a lawyer, and when I did, I started writing books. Initially, I started self-publishing, and besides learning what to write, because there are rules to writing a book, I also needed to know how to put a book together. What better place to go and find that information out but at the library? So the new library, South Euclid Library, was, it opened around 2015, I think. And so not long after it opened, I decided I wanted to publish paperback books. So I grabbed a ruler and I headed off to the library. I wanted to see what size my book should be. I needed to look at the first few pages to see what to put on them, because I wanted my self-published book to look just like a library book. And on my way out, I caught a glimpse off the side of my eye at a sign that said Writing Center. And I thought, oh no, no way is there a Writing Center in the library. I believe that the Writers Center at South Euclid Library is the only one in the state, and I think in Northeast Ohio, that is in a library and that is free to everyone. It's free of charge to use it and its resources. There are, of course, other writing centers in the state. Most of them are affiliated with colleges and universities, and you have to be a student usually to use the facility. But I'm sure you've all run into people who say, you know, I could write a book. Or you've heard someone's story and you said to them, you should write a book. And if you ever felt like that or know someone who feels like that, the South Euclid Library is the place to go. As part of its writing program, the Cuyahoga County Library offers writing classes on craft, on publishing, craft writing such as writing fiction, writing memoirs, dialogue, setting, just whatever you need. They offer those classes and they're offered for free. They've even let me teach a class or two, and I have taught classes on self-publishing your books, and I've started a group called #AmWriting, where writers, not just in our community or among those branches that you saw on the PowerPoint, but we've had writers come in from Worcester, from Detroit, and different places and spend the afternoon with us where we discuss our writing projects together. We get do critiques on each other's work, and then we spend time writing, because the Writing Center there is such a great resource for the writing community. If you write, they've got stacks of books that you can check out. They have laptops you can use there, check out and use there. There's quiet rooms there that you can use. And there is in my opinion, the best librarian ever there. She has really equipped the Writing Center with everything you need, and she can always put her finger on it if you tell her what you're looking for. She can help you find a book. And it has really helped me a lot. Not only because I love being around other writers, but the atmosphere there at the Writing Center and within the library is conducive to writing. So in the 7 years that I've been writing for about 7 years, and in the 2 years that I have made the South Euclid Library my second home, I have written 7 books and 4 or 5 short stories. I've gotten a publishing contract, and I've gotten a literary agent. And when I first got my publishing and agent contracts, I was able to use the resources there to make sure that I was getting a fair offer and that I understood what was going on. There are books on the shelf that list all the literary agencies in the United States, maybe the world. And there's a book there that lists all the publishers. So that helped me to figure out what I needed to do. If I get stuck on writing a plot or a setting, I can just go there and grab a book off the shelf.
Wow, that is an amazing story, Abby. I can't even, I mean, I'm taking notes as you're, talking, just so I had no idea you could get that much, help at the library for your writing. And there's one of your books sitting behind you. I'm going to be borrowing that pretty soon.
On the library shelves at your local library.
So now we're going to move over to another super user of the library system, Joe Cimperman of Cleveland, who lives in Cleveland. You may recognize his name because he was on Cleveland City Council for 10 years. And now he is president of Global Cleveland, a nonprofit that attracts, welcomes, and connects international newcomers to economic, social, and educational opportunities, I bet including the library systems, right? In Cleveland and Cuyahoga County. So you tell us why and how you use the library system in the county.
Well, good evening and thank you. And Abby, my personal favorite is secrets, lies, and crawfish pies. Thank you. That's one of my favorites. It's a page turner. You can't put it down. I want to thank the League for hosting, and I also want to thank Director Strobel for her extraordinary leadership. Clearly, her work within the library has been something of a calling for her and a real vocation. And I know many of the librarians feel that way too. And Director, even before you were in charge of the library, you were building an incredible foundation, and I think we all appreciate you. I speak to you today with bias, with a bit of a prejudice, and I'll share that with you very openly because this is the League of Women Voters and we tell the truth here. I was raised in a family where English was a learning language. My first language that I learned was not English, and some people will tell you they understand that very much when I speak. We were a family. My mother immigrated here, and my father was from the same immigrant community. And but for the library system and the card that I had, I can tell you with 100% certainty, I would not be where I am today. I say that to you because many people don't know that over the last decade, Cuyahoga County in Northeast Ohio has attracted almost 3,500 immigrants to our community every single year, year after year. What does that mean? It's looking at a total of almost 35,000 people. And what is the first place that those families will go to, as you heard from the author of Palaces of the People and from Director Strobel? They come to the library, not only to gain expertise in English as a learning language, but to seek support for work on their resumes, to look at networking for employment. In some cases, to meet people from the nation from which they come in order to not feel so alone. And I think it's pretty fair to say in 2020, as we're looking at our democracy and our republic and across this community, that the library is one of the last icons that is just unquestionable. And it's so incredible that I think it's important for people to realize many of the newcomers and immigrants who use the library, not only for books in their language, but also learning English, learn how to study for their citizenship courses, learn how to connect with people from their community, and do so in a way that's very safe and welcoming. I've had the privilege of being with Director Strobel over the last 2 years at 2 naturalization ceremonies. One at Parma, when Judge Nugent spoke along with Mayor DeGeeter, and last year in Solon with Mayor Krause. And I can tell you that those moments, while they were beautiful, had a solemnity to them, a seriousness, because the people who were in that library knew the library very well. For some of them had probably been their 100th visit. And they knew that what they were doing there was not a final step in terms of becoming US citizens, but it was something that they were doing to continue their education. We see it all the time at Global Cleveland, with families who come in from all over the world who are looking to feel a part of the community and also looking to stimulate themselves, learn a new trade or learn a new skill. And the folks that are coming here from all over the globe are chemists and nurses, they're teachers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're people who worked in custodial services. And what's the place where they go is the bridge for them? It's always the library. I say this to you because it's so critical for us to remember that once we have something that's built like this, its momentum is key for us to continue to support it. And why I use the Parma Library branch is that some of the books that are there in my own native language of Slovenian are ones that I frankly can't find anywhere else. I find that the staff is so supportive, and when we talk to our newcomers about why they go to places like the Parma branch or the Solon branch or the South Euclid branch, sure, it's for the incredible materials, it's also for the kindness of the staff. We need, as a country, to be more welcoming to newcomers. We are welcoming to our newcomers at the Cuyahoga County Public Library system, and I'm just thrilled to be part of this panel, and I'm excited to be continuing to use the library system, as I know so many of the thousands of newcomers who come to Northeast Ohio do. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Joe. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're doing the work you're doing with the immigrant community as well. I wanted to tell everyone now that we also invited Nancy Levin, director of the Cleveland Heights University Heights Libraries, to this forum to explain a little bit the history of Ohio libraries, their structure, and the laws governing libraries in our state. She will clarify why we here in Cuyahoga County have 8 different school district libraries and 1 county district library. Nancy has served as director of the Heights Libraries since 2008. The Heights Libraries are known for their innovations and excellent customer service at its main library on Lee Road in Cleveland Heights and its 3 community branches. She's a native of Akron, graduated from Ohio State with a BS in art history, and has a Master's of Library Science from Kent State University. Before entering the library field, she worked at a number of museums and was a photography editor at the Associated Press and Encyclopedia Britannica in Chicago. Before serving the Heights Library, she had been a youth services librarian and then deputy director at Rocky River Library. So Nancy, why don't you start by explaining the relationship between, the history of the libraries and the relationship between the independent libraries and the county library system.
Sure. Thank you, Marcia. It is my pleasure to be here to support the Cuyahoga County Library and all of the libraries in our great region. So I get the unenviable task of explaining a very convoluted and a little confusing system, and I'll do my best. I do have slides to share with you so that I can help illustrate about which I speak, and I am going to go to my PowerPoint right now. As long as I can, there it is. Okay, and there we go. So, library funding in Cuyahoga County. There are a few things you should know. Ohio has 251 public library systems with 481 branch locations. That's a total of 732 library outlets. We are library rich. Our libraries were established in accordance with Section 3375 of the Ohio Revised Code, and that whole chapter deals with libraries. If anyone really wants to have fun, and if you're a political wonk, you should read the Ohio Revised Code sometime. It's fascinating. And the section about libraries, it gets into lots of detail about how 7 types of public libraries are created, what their boards look like, how they're funded, how they can establish branches, all sorts of details. It also created a state library in Columbus and made provisions for a state librarian. And right now that woman is Mandy Knapp, and she has been there for just a short period of time. Among the public libraries in Ohio, there are 7 different kinds. And I throw the screen up here to show you that there are 19 associations. There are 3 different kinds of county libraries, one of which is a county district library, and that's what CCPL is. There are 19 municipal libraries, 148 school district libraries, of which 8 are in our county. You already mentioned that, Susan, I believe, at the beginning. 4 township libraries, and there are 0 regional library districts. So if you look at a map of Ohio, you can see these beautiful little books show how lucky we really are. And in Cuyahoga County, we are doubly blessed. So one good thing about the way libraries are funded in our state is that everyone who lives in Ohio can use any library in Ohio. In other states, people are charged if they don't live in the area of their library district, or may not even be allowed to use their services. That is definitely the case in Florida, for example. In the Ohio Revised Code, in the section about school district libraries, there came a time when they said, we will no longer create school district libraries. So after September 4th, 1947, all of the school district libraries that existed were allowed to remain, and any other library that wanted to be established had to go into a county system. So if you, I will show you a map in a few minutes, but if you look at the map of Cuyahoga County, that explains why we are the way we are. So there were 8 public libraries that were school district libraries that were established in Cuyahoga County before 1947. Cleveland Public, of course, is the largest. East Cleveland, Cleveland Heights, University Heights, Shaker, and then on the other side, Rocky River, Lakewood, and Westlake. That's why we have our own library systems. And after 1947, any community that became established and wanted a library would join then the Cuyahoga County Library. So you can see that it's like the inner ring suburbs hugging the city of Cleveland, and then anything on the outlying areas became the county system. And as Tracy mentioned, there is no overlap in boundaries, and we only pay taxes to the library that is serving our actual area. We all rely on levies. Libraries do have general expense similarities. We all spend around 60% of our revenue on staff. We all spend around 15% on materials, both print and digital. And then the other expenditures are scattered throughout a number of different categories. Services that we require for cleaning and taking care of the parking lots and things like that. So we do all follow a similar budgeting schedule, and our budgets are very, very similar. Some libraries have debts for buildings based on bond issues or other approved borrowing against further revenue, and some libraries can have investments, but only on very secure instruments like treasury bills or long-term CDs. We are not allowed to have investments that go beyond 5 years. So there will be no coin scandal, for example, in a school, in a library. So Tracy mentioned this, but 1.7% of the general revenue fund of the state of Ohio is given to libraries in the form of the public library fund. So that public library fund was the, I believe, red triangle in Tracy's presentation. That's the Capitol building in Ohio. For the calendar year 2019, the total amount that went to all of the public libraries in the state was about $410 million. And before they give the money to the libraries, they also pay for the Ohio Public Library Information Network, which provides all of our Wi-Fi services and an amazing example of shared revenue that we all take advantage of. And we get our internet boosted very often because of the great use that we have, and that is a huge benefit to all of the libraries. Money also comes out of that fund for the Library for the Blind and Physically Disabled. We have one of the headquarters here in Cleveland at the Cleveland Public Library. The revenues received from the PLF are distributed by county budget commissions, and again, nearly all of it goes directly to libraries, but each county has a unique funding formula. And that is another chapter in another book. We're not going to talk about that tonight. So collectively, about 48% of total funding for Ohio public libraries comes from the state through the PLF, which is a great thing because it enables us to share a lot of services. In fiscal year 2018, the state spent a total of $69.68 billion in their budget across all their funds, and less than 1% of that, or about 5.55%, went to the PLF. So the state is not funding us with a huge portion of their revenue, but it is very significant to each library. And there are a number of libraries, about 50 of them, that do not have a local property tax and that are funded solely from the PLF, which gives them a certain level of service, but certainly not the kind that we have in Cuyahoga County. Public libraries do not have taxing authority to implement a local sales tax or an income tax. And also, unlike counties, cities, and school districts, public libraries do not receive casino revenue from Ohio's casinos. So here's a chart that shows public library spending or funding over since 1985. It goes until 2010, and you can see that it peaked in 2001, 20 years ago. And since then, library funding has gone down. There was a little bit of an uptick in the last 2 years, and then of course, 2020 down again. So in 2004, you'll see the state of Ohio has many green dots and many red dots. The libraries, the counties with no levy, or the libraries with no levy, were the red dots. The libraries with a levy were the green dots. And if you watch me play a trick with your eyes, this is in 2019, and look at all those green dots. So because the library funding went down from the state, obviously all of the libraries had to do something about that in order to survive. So there are quite a few more library levies now than there were in 2004. So I think Tracy may have mentioned this, but when you look at your total property taxes, the library portion is only 3% of your total property tax. So when An institution like the Greater Cleveland Partnership says that they want to lower taxes for people and they take aim at public libraries, they're really not achieving a great bit because it's such a small portion of the property taxes. Cities and counties can get their tax money from lots of different sources. Public libraries only get either the state library PLF or county property or the property taxes. So I scratch my head a little bit when I think about why the Greater Cleveland Partnership chose to take aim at libraries when there were so many other entities that really cost you, the taxpayer, way more money. So here's a couple of more facts to know. Tracy also mentioned that 1 mil is equal to 1/1000th of a dollar of your home's value. But when you compare rates from community to community, they are very different because property values are different from community to community. So a city that has a lot of poverty does not gain as much property tax from the same number of homes as a city with greater wealth. Some library districts have 1 building, some have 30, some are part of a consortia like CleveNet that share a catalog and technology, and other differences account for funding needs. So I'm almost done, but I'd like to remind you that in Ohio, $1 of investment is equal to $5 of value for the average taxpayer. If you get all of your reading material from a library, you can save hundreds of dollars a year, not to mention internet and computer services and downloadable books. So libraries are also filling in gaps. And if you look at the percentage of school librarians who have lost their jobs between 2009 and 2016, more than 9,000 full-time equivalent school librarian positions were eliminated in the United States. The Columbus Dispatch reported that in 2015, for the past 10 years, the number of librarians or full-time equivalents in Ohio public schools has dropped 43%. And I don't know about you, but when I was in kindergarten, my favorite part of the day was when we got to walk down to the library. So one of the reasons why Ohio is such a great library state is because we have great funding. And another is because we live very close to 3 or 4 of the best library schools in the country. So you're getting expert help when you come to an Ohio library. And in that same library journal star rating, Ohio was only #2 after New York State for the number of libraries that received accolades from the Journal of Public Service Index. That makes me very proud, and it makes me know that being the best among the best is something to be very, very, very proud of. And it's a jewel for Ohio that we don't want to give away. And so many of our democratic institutions have been whittled down over the last few years, and we certainly don't want libraries to be one of them. And we will all fight very hard for them to continue doing the great services that we do.
Oh, thank you so much, Nancy. Now we're going to turn to questions. I know I have several of my own, but we're going to take the questions from our participants, and then I can move to my own if there's time. So we have until about 8:15 to continue with the questions. The first question I'll ask is, I think we have to concentrate on the levy first. Tracy, could you explain to us how the $18 million annually will be distributed among your needs?
Sure, thanks for that question. We will be using those dollars for a number of things, primarily for maintaining our branches, for keeping our current hours. We're open 65 hours a week, 7 days a week, and those dollars will pay for things like staff salaries and healthcare. It'll pay for our materials budget, which we've been cutting the past several years. We'll be able to reinstate that materials budget, which will keep your wait times down for your favorite book or other material. We'll be making a number of improvements on our buildings related to safety and security. So, for example, camera systems and making sure that there's personal safety and security as well as material safety and security.
Thanks. Now, can you explain, I know that you had a huge building boom over the last 10 years. Now, does the money from the operating levies, where do you get the money for the capital expenditures? Is that coming from both the state funds and the levies?
So those dollars were a combination of money that we had saved, money that we borrowed, and money that we raised through philanthropic resources. And in terms of the money that we borrowed, we do spend our state dollars to make payments on that money. Yeah.
Okay. And there's a question about a continuing levy versus a limited time levy.
Sure.
I think I know the answer to that question, but you go ahead.
Okay. Well, in 2008, we made the shift in our current millage to continuing. And that was a big success. We had a lot of positive feedback from voters in 2008 and won by a large margin. That told us that continuing issues were supported. I know that many of us see the entities around the county coming back to the ballot. Seems like certain entities are always on the ballot. And you know, there's a lot of voter fatigue out there. And we didn't want to have to come back every 3 to 5 years. We believe we have a strong track record of fiscal responsibility, and that the 1 mill levy being a minimal amount that people wouldn't want to have to see us go back to the ballot every 3 to 5 years to reinstate that.
And your financial reports for 2019 are now online. And I understand that you hope that you will not have to return to the voters for another levy for at least a decade. Is that
That's
right?
correct. We've made financial projections that will mean that these dollars are enough to sustain us for at least a decade. We've just gone 12 years. We'd like to go another 12 years. But we look at our projections, and with everything remaining constant, then we should be able to go at least a decade.
Now, one of our participants has asked, she closely looked at the financial report and wants to know if you could explain why over the past 10 years, it looks like your holdings have declined and circulation is down by 28%. Could you please discuss the declines and the role you see for books and other materials in the library's future?
Sure. Circulation has been declining across the country for all library systems. That's a trend we've seen. And frankly, it's largely related to the economy. And that's a tradition in library services that when the economy is in decline, the library business is booming. And when the economy gets better and better, you see that circulation in a library is declining. And so we're braced to and want to support our use during an impending economic decline. But you can definitely see that as people have more disposable income, they choose to buy their books or their entertainment resources. We're competing against streaming services. If you dissect that circulation even further, you'll see that much of that decline is in DVDs. Because people are seeking their visual entertainment through the internet, YouTube, streaming, whether it's Netflix or all the different things, that's some stiff competition for libraries, and you can see that our statistics reflect that.
I know that I've been depending a lot more on ebooks via Levy.
Yep.
Online. So you must be seeing a great deal of that now as well, right? And is the cost of an ebook going up for libraries or staying the same, or how does that work?
Thank you for asking that question, Marcia. People are always shocked to know that an ebook is significantly more expensive than a physical book, where we might spend
I'm shocked.
After our discounts, we might spend $14 on a hardcover bestseller from one of our book jobbers. When we go to buy that same book in a digital format, we're paying upwards of $55 to $70 for that. And they actually put a limitation on how many times we can lend that for that price. So it depends on the publisher and the digital rights. I won't get into the goriest of details, but typically we can only lend that book 24 times, for example, before it just disappears and we have to buy it again for $55 or $65. And that has stretched our materials budget quite thin because, as you said, ebooks, whether they're ebooks or e-audio books that people download, are incredibly popular. You know, trying to satiate demand, especially at that that cost, has put a real strain on our materials budget, which does explain why there are fewer print materials, because we're trying to balance our budget between print and digital. When the pandemic kicked in, and for the several months we've been watching since March, our digital circulation is up 27%.
Wow.
Trying to feed that beast, as we like to say.
Yeah, I guess so.
Incredibly.
So another person has asked if, and Nancy, you could answer this too, if the library works closely with the school systems across the county.
Oh, yes, we all do, and especially in the pandemic. We were on calls every week, starting in April, trying to figure out how best to serve our students. Some of the products like tutor.com, which Tracy mentioned, we also make available, which is a real live person offering homework help over the computer. I always imagine a harried mother like putting her kids to bed and then calling tutor.com so she can figure out the algebra lesson for tomorrow. I think that we all tried, our library shared our hotspots with our school district. We're all trying to figure out a way to minimize the isolation that children are feeling when they have to learn from home, and also just to support reading for fun, which is very important, and certainly can take you anywhere in the world. So help us all escape from this time that we're living in. So we all work very closely with the schools, and especially when there aren't as many school librarians, we're doing outreach visits. I'm sure Tracy is too. And we are trying to provide as many services as we can for all different ages of students.
Thanks. How about you, Tracy? Would you like to add anything?
I just want to stress the importance of digital equity in this time with the schools and students who lack internet access yet are trying to learn remotely at home. I'll use a quick example. In Warrensville Heights, we're hosting a learning pod, actually two small groups of students, and the school has sent a teacher over to the library. So they're using our space to host a learning pod for children who do not have access at home, or parents who can be at home to help them.
So how do you come up with the ideas about how to help the school system? Do you talk to
the school system what they need?
The schools, all the schools?
Yeah, it's a very collaborative conversation, you know, between not only the school and the library, but also the families that we're serving. How can we all kind of create that safety network?
Okay, we're going to turn to another subject where you'll both have to answer. CleveNet, right, Nancy? People are asking, why can't you share the same computer system and share CleveNet? And I know that there's another kind of system that the county uses, right, for people to access other sorts of materials.
The county does utilize a different type of sharing collaborative. We're part of Ohio Link, which is the sharing network among college and university libraries. So we can have any book item delivered from any college and university library to any of our 27 branches in just a matter of a couple days. So that has expanded our collection exponentially. And then there is also a network of public libraries around the state, some large collections from large main libraries like Toledo, Akron, Cincinnati, who share materials amongst ourselves. It's just simply a different sharing collaborative than CleveNet. CleveNet's model is a bit different, where they share the same library system, the software and the server, and provide technical support for smaller libraries around the region. Cuyahoga County being a large library with large transactions, frankly, if we joined in, we more than double the number of transactions that CleveNet does, and that could bring any system to a screeching halt. So you know, it works for both of us. I would love to work on ways that we can tap into Cleveland Public Library's main library collection because it's outstanding. And I'm sure that over time that level of collaboration will come to fruition.
Well, how did it happen in the first place, Nancy? I mean, how did this happen that we have
Well, funny you should ask, Marcia, because Cleveland Heights was the first member of Cleveland. The Cleveland Public Library director and the Cleveland Heights director decided in around 1980 that they were entering the computer age and they would be better off together than alone, and decided to share their computer systems, their software, their union catalog of all their materials. And that is what started it in 1981. And then it just has grown and grown and grown. And CleveNet actually has grown a lot in the last few years. There were some funds available through the state of Ohio, the Ohio Library, that we could use to have people join consortia. So we did gain a lot of members, and I'm sure we will keep growing when it's feasible. But I think we all share in so many ways that doesn't seem to be a concern for us, but I'm sure, you know.
Well, if I'm sitting at home and I want to get into either source, I can do that, right?
Yes, we're both available. And
that just amazes me.
we look up at each other's items all the time,
right?
Because
we do have sharing arrangements with Cleveland Public Library, especially in the area of foreign language materials.
Mm-hmm.
As Joe knows, we do stock the foreign language materials from Cleveland Public Library's collection in some of our branches. So they'll send us, you know, we'll call up and say, hey, can we get a couple boxes of things in Russian? And they check them out to us, and then we check them out to our customers in the communities. You know, we certainly do share, and we are constantly looking for additional ways to collaborate.
Well, I'm gonna interpose my question I had before we started tonight about why and how do the same library card work in both systems? How did that come about?
You know, ultimately the library card is just a number, and if you have the same number at the Cleveland Public Library as you do at the South Euclid-Lyndhurst Library, you know, it's two different systems, but it's the same number in both systems. So when you bring your Cleveland Public card to your South Euclid desk clerk, she just uses that number in the system. And
when you change that, it made my life a lot easier, I must say.
If you live on the west side, because they have more different systems, some people walk around with 5 library cards in their wallet.
Really?
And
what's with those West Siders anyway?
It works. It works. I worked at Rocky River for a while, and that's what people do. And again, we are so blessed in Northeast Ohio to have these great libraries. I did want to mention also that we share in another way. We library directors all get together and we try to bring the best resources to the Northeast Ohio area. We collaborate on reading programs. We're just working on One Community Reads this year with topics around race and racism. We've done that every year for as long as I can remember in one way or another. We are cooperating with the City Club of Cleveland to bring 5 Days of Democracy this week. And we're all sharing books and resources and speakers and all of our programs. So I think that has evolved more over the last 10 years, that the libraries are working much more closely together, and we're facing problems that are facing our whole community. We've talked about low infant survival rates. We've talked about racism. We've talked about evictions and homelessness. And I think that strength of all of us working together is really an asset to our community.
Thanks. Here's a question for you, Tracy. Is your system planning to build any new branches or refurbish existing branches in the next year or 5 years?
That's a great question. We actually have a couple projects underway, although we did pause one project because of the pandemic and the funding reduction from the state. But Bay Village is an area that we have a design in the can for and can't wait to break ground. But because of the pandemic and the state reductions, we paused that program, but certainly hope to get right back there when we can. They're in a very old and inflexible building at the moment, and we have a great plan to build new. We also are in a partnership with the Richmond School District, where they are building a new school for their 7th through 12th grade, and they have included a public library in their plans, and it will open next summer, which we're very excited about. So the construction is well underway, and they essentially built us a box, and we are going to turn that box into a library, and it's
Now,
connected.
that'll be a totally new branch, or is that a branch?
We have a branch in Richmond, and it will be a replacement branch.
Okay.
Right, we're actually renting space in a strip mall right now that will close and open up in the new 7 through 12 school on that campus.
I think you touched on this already, but have you set up Wi-Fi hotspots in parking lots so kids can go ahead?
Well, we were closed, all the time. Our Wi-Fi is boosted through our parking lots, and there are cases where there's a nearby park, like Coe Lake at the Berea branch is you can get Wi-Fi out while you sit by the lake, that kind of thing, or walking around the park next to the Beechwood branch. While we were closed, it became very important. We saw almost 70,000 connections in our parking lots while we were closed from March to June. And again, it was people doing homework, people applying for unemployment, really critical services. We also offer circulating hotspots. Thank you to the Cleveland Foundation. They funded 2 years of funding for over 300 hotspots available in our most challenged branches. And it's incredibly difficult to satiate the need for Wi-Fi hotspots in those communities.
I know I finished a couple books in the library at South Euclid. When the library closed, and I was like on a closing paragraph, I would sit in the parking lot with my laptop. So that service is wonderful. Yeah.
Don't stop when you're on a roll.
That's right.
Let's see if there were no other questions from the audience. I would like to know, however, we can spend our last couple minutes. Tracy, can you explain the relationship between you and your employees with the board? I think a lot of people don't understand what the library board does. I know that the members are appointed by county council and what is the other book?
Court of Common Pleas.
Court of Common Pleas.
Seven board members who volunteer. They're not paid, they're not elected, they are appointed. And they are appointed for 7-year terms, and they oversee our spending. They oversee our services and policies. They're my boss. And we have a wonderful board, and the board ultimately are the decision makers. The board, based on analysis and recommendation from the leadership team, the board decided to put issue 70 on the ballot. And they certainly study what's best for the library in relation to what's best for our communities and make decisions based on that. And so they hire the director, and then I oversee the remainder of the staff. So we have a terrific board, very supportive, very, very involved, and I couldn't be more grateful for that.
And how does one become a member of the board? Say somebody's coming off the board, you apply then to?
You apply, so it depends on the seat that is being vacated, being either a county executive appointment or a Court of Common Pleas appointment. They will put notice out for applicants, and people would apply then and be reviewed by those entities and then appointed.
Okay, in our last minute or two, tell us about your employees and what the pandemic has done, and if some are coming back now, or how do you see things working out?
So our employees are all back now. We are open our full 65 hours a week in all 27 locations. Our employees are back in full force. We did have a period of time where we reduced our employees by 50% and made use of Ohio's Shared Work Ohio program and unemployment benefits to do our best to make them whole financially during that time. But they are all back now. They are absolutely fantastic. You will never meet a more dedicated, hardworking group of individuals. I know Abby made reference to this. Our internal motto is "We serve," and we are in service to and are built to serve our communities. Whether it's to find the best possible book for a young reader, or helping people find jobs, or helping people find benefits, helping people learn a new skill, teaching people how to use the embroidery machine, as you saw in the video. I mean, our staff does it all, and they do it all with a great passion for service and helping.
Well, thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you, Nancy and Abby and Joe and everyone else behind the scenes to get this together. I want to remind everyone, voting starts on October 6th. If you haven't registered to vote, you have until October 5th, which is Monday. You can apply to get an absentee ballot. You can vote early at the library. Yes. You can vote early down at the Board of Elections. You can mail your ballot in, or you can drop it at the Board of Elections. So far, we have not been able to convince the state that we should have more drop boxes, but the league is working on that.
Yeah.
So thanks again to everybody, and good night. You can go watch the Indians game. I just saw on my phone that they're ahead by 1 run. So let's hope they keep it up. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Nancy.
Bye. Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.